to be able to see.
Audio's on.
Oh, audio's on now. Okay.
Oh,
so
hang on.
you guys are going to have to do a much better clap than that.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be serious.
Coordinated.
Ready? No, you're not doing that.
How about you just tell me when?
What's the elbows?
Yeah, just tell me when.
Do you need
Oh,
counting?
right.
Is it on 3?
Or is it on go?
We just got to clap to sync the audio.
2. Welcome to Almost Therapeutic. Tonight we're talking about the problem with pornography, especially for young people. So it's going to be an interesting evening for the panel as we talk about it, and hopefully you guys as well. Speaking of the panel, we've got our regular members,
Aiden.
Ben.
Connor.
and the rose between the thorns tonight. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
A third year nursing student. I finish at the end of the year. I'm a type 1 diabetic. My favourite colour is green. And I do not like grapes.
Nobody likes grapes.
Yeah, that's an important bit of
How can you
information.
say nobody likes grapes?
Because I don't like grapes. Therefore, nobody likes grapes.
But she would like your new chair.
Yeah. Her favourite colour's green. But
Yeah, well, you look like a grape.
this
so
is my chair.
deal with
I
it.
actually wanted to sit in the chair and I got kicked out.
Yes, because it's my chair.
Fantastic.
So, before we get into the heavy stuff tonight, we're going to have a word about contacting us.
Yeah. So as always, you can comment and send feedback and watch more episodes on our website, www.almosttherapeutic.com. Also, please visit our Twitter, @almosttweeting, our Facebook page, which is called Almost Therapeutic, and our YouTube channel, also called Almost Therapeutic.
I like that. Almost tweeting.
Almost tweeting.
Almost 20.
Almost
So-
tweeting.
We've almost got it worked out.
And when you tweet, hashtag Almost Therapeutic.
I'm still getting used to the hashtags and the ats and the...
That's why it's almost. It's almost.
Yeah, Almost Tweeting, that's right.
We're not quite there.
That's my nickname.
Yeah.
Almost.
Almost.
That's right.
Now,
That's great.
speaking about therapeutic, I thought it would be good tonight because it's not a particularly easy name if you're trying to Google it or go to a website or spell it.
Oh, I'm a little
Is
excited.
it, Connor? So I thought what we do is get Ben to play the Almost Therapeutic Spelling Bee. Ben, your word tonight is...
You feeling lucky, Ben?
I'm not on that show.
Can you spell therapeutic?
Therapeutic. Okay. Jesus.
No, therapeutic.
Okay, I got it. THE
Confirmation?
AUPTIC.
No.
Ben, your spelling is incorrect.
Well, that's why I'm not on the team.
All right, hang on. We got Connor here as well.
Oh, don't do that.
No,
Connor.
I reckon I could
All
spell
right,
it.
Connor.
Okay,
go.
have a
Yeah,
go.
you spell therapeutic.
THERI. No, EP.
No.
You're embarrassing
No.
yourself.
No.
Connor,
I got lost.
your spelling is incorrect.
Let's bring it home. Let's save it. Rachel.
I can write it.
Okay, Rachel. Save the
Rachel.
day.
We got excuses here.
Third year
You
nursing
can't read or
student,
write.
Can you spell therapeutic?
No.
She's not even going to try.
No.
Come
Oh,
on.
hang on.
The embarrassment is.
It's remember that it's PEU, Dick.
What?
There's a sneaky one.
There's
after
no
the P.
D in it.
Dude, but that's how I remember to spell it when I'm writing it down.
So you put
It's the sound.
You put the D in there.
Guys,
I guess it
this
can
is
go
the
anywhere.
pornography episode.
Yeah.
PEUD.
Okay. The spelling is thankfully on the screen, and
Freudian slip,
that will
okay.
help you guys to find the website.
Because we don't know.
Hopefully.
THERAPEUTIC.
You looked
That
at
is
it though.
not what I was
Yeah,
going to
you
say.
were looking at the
I
computer.
did. I glanced down because when you spell it out loud in front of people, all of a sudden you're like, I've probably got it wrong now. You start second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
I could spell door and assume it has 4 O's because other people are looking at me.
I'm going to give you my fact file tonight. I've got 10 facts, so we're going to have to work efficiently. And I just want you guys to discuss the topics as we go through it. Because I think for the young people who are watching, there are so many issues around pornography that aren't talked about. And there are so many bits of information they probably have never heard before. So my first one is maybe obvious, but maybe not. Porn is one of the biggest businesses on the planet. And I was a little surprised to find out that porn sales, over $15 billion Australian dollars,
Yeah.
porn sales are bigger than Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Apple combined.
Wow.
This is
combined.
a massive business, annual sales.
Yeah. I knew it would probably be bigger than them, but combined, yeah, that word.
That was
That was
I've
heavy.
heard the
surprising.
term sex sells, but I honestly didn't think it was that much.
Well, it's that much. And the percentage of internet
What's
use that goes to porn is staggering.
Well, I guess
Like
we weren't,
40%, I'd guess. It'd be
we
alright.
weren't made for Googling, but I guess we were to some degree made for.
Sex.
Sure.
We weren't made
You know,
for
this topic isn't going to work if you can't say the word.
we weren't made for Googling.
Yeah, but it's built into your like nature to want to fornicate.
Do you mean Googling or Googling?
Most kids these
No,
days wouldn't know that
like
looking is
Googling.
Googling.
Like, I kind of understood what he was talking about, and then you tried to figure it out, and
Hey,
now
I'm
I'm
lost.
confused.
Yeah, I got lost.
I mean, like
The rest of us were on the same
I
page.
do
not
that
the
a
way
lot.
you were.
So my point about the fact that porn is big business is when you're on the other end of that, when you're the watcher, you've got to understand you are simply someone that companies are trying to make money from.
Yeah.
You're a consumer. They don't care about you. They don't care about what happens to you. They want you to watch it and watch more of it because you make them money.
But that can be said with a lot of things.
Absolutely.
What's advertisement?
Yeah, every advertisement
Absolutely.
Yeah.
just wants your
But
money.
it's
so I guess at that point the question is why is porn way more successful then? If it's
Because
bigger than like
sex
Because
sells.
sex
That's what we
sells.
sell.
yeah.
Our
But
drive
sex
is so
sells.
simple.
That
Men's,
used to be
especially to
ads
men.
where you had a pretty girl draped over a car.
Yeah, and then we go
Yeah.
buy the car.
But it still happens. Where do you think all the links ads come from? They make you more
Yep.
appealing, more sexual.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
people go out and buy what's a deodorant? That's the word.
Yeah, good job. Good
Yeah.
job. Good job.
antiperspirant.
So my second fact is porn is everywhere, which we're probably, have an inkling of, but over 12% of all net sites on the planet are porn sites. 25% of searches in any minute are for porn. 1/4 of internet searches. 80% of young people watch it. That's how pervasive it is.
How low does young people go? What is the age gate there?
Well, it's hard to get data for very young people because you're supposed to,
Be
of course,
over
be
18.
certain ages. But most of the data is for 12 to 17-year-olds when we're talking about
Yeah.
80% of 12 to 17-year-olds.
Yeah, makes sense.
Some of the stuff I've read about this topic while we were looking at doing it is as young as 11 years old is how early most kids are seeing this sort of stuff.
You can kind of understand that because at that age you are maturing, you are developing, you exploring your own sexuality, and in this day and age where sexuality is a very open topic, it can be quite confusing.
Yeah, but if I think of myself as I'm now 20 years old, if I think of myself as an 11-year-old, I had nowhere near the
drive.
mental maturity or understanding or knowledge about emotions and relationships and
Yeah.
like the amount of data and all this information that I have now that I can use as a filter when issues with porn come up
Yeah.
is so much larger than when I was 11,
Well, sure, and we're going to talk about that exact point, readiness for this kind of material from a developmental point of view. But when I was younger, there was no porn, there was no internet.
Yeah.
There was porn, there was Playboy, and a handful of magazines.
Yeah.
They were actually on paper, like in books and magazines. Somebody 18 or older had to go buy them and then come and, the boys would all gather around and have a look. But that was very, very
Softcore.
limited.
Yeah,
Sounds like a lot of effort.
It was a lot of effort. Unless you found Uncle Bill's stash, under the bed and somebody brought them to school, it wasn't pervasive. When-
So
Now I'm
were
just
there, like,
imagining you with like a bag of sand and like a bunch of porn mags in your Uncle Bill's room. Like,
Indiana
Yeah.
runs away from the ball.
It is so pervasive now that it's odd, it's unusual if a young person has not seen and encountered hardcore porn.
Actually, there was something on BuzzFeed. It's
Yep.
one of the ones on Facebook, and they actually found 2 people in the office that had never watched porn before.
Yep.
And it was very uncommon.
Very uncommon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that-
probably,
that
there's probably
surprised me.
150
Yeah.
people in the whole building or whatever, and there's 2 people that haven't watched it,
Yeah, for sure. Well, my third fact is porn sells a lie. Any idea what I mean by that?
like it's not realistic.
Yeah, keep going.
That's all I had.
Okay.
It happens to real people. What happens in the movies happens in real life.
Yeah, I think
Like
also,
happens to everyday people, normal people. I guess not actors and actresses and crazy people.
Well, it sells. The thing about porn is sex is a very real, intimate thing, and I think people naturally have an inclination to believe it's real and intimate, and it's that sort of act. And then when you have porn and you have these specific situations that some of these people are in,
It's just stimulating.
when you start assimilating that situation with truthful and innocent and bonding act, you start to think that people are okay with that sort of thing, and the truth can be very different. like the things that these actors and stars are okay to do to each other and happy with and they're enjoying, most people would find very uncomfortable.
Well, even beyond that, people have got to remember that these are not real scenarios.
Yeah.
These are actors at best.
Obviously, the pizza guy doesn't show up with more than a pizza.
Well, not in real life.
I wish you did though.
A second pizza, but extra pizza.
And a lot of the time, they're not even actors in the sense of actors. They're people who are desperate. They're people who may be supporting drug habits. There is a whole sex slave trade that's very real in the world. So a lot of the people who are behind these porn videos are in a desperate state.
Yep.
And what we're watching is not real life. This is not what sex and intimacy is meant to be about.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't really portray intimacy, though.
What do you mean by that?
Well, most porn things that I've seen are all about enjoyment and casual sex. Like, it's not creating that romantic feel that you when you have sex with someone that you love.
Yeah, but that's also because you understand what intimacy is. The whole thing, like going back to what we were saying before, how kids like really young, before their teenage years even, are seeing this stuff. They don't have a grounds to understand what intimacy is.
Yeah.
So they will see this stuff and think, oh, that is intimacy. And I would imagine from there they can get a very warped view on sex and intimacy as a whole because of the stuff they've seen.
Well, even in the last 10 years, the research we did getting ready for tonight, what porn used to do was show pictures with a story. So there was always a backstory. There was kind of something going on between the characters that you would read about and you'd look at pictures that went with it. Most porn sites now are 2 or 3 minute snips with no story, no content. It is just pure, raw physical interactions between people.
Yeah.
And when kids are seeing that at a very early age, that's their view of sex. So that's got to have an impact down the road.
Dating as a whole,
It's definitely changed.
even with friends from uni and stuff like that, dating isn't like going out on dates and picking certain times to go out with this one person and
It's not
getting
wooing.
to know each other
You're not
that
trying
way.
to woo someone anymore.
It's not.
It's
as
Tinder.
Exactly.
You want them, you have them.
Social media has changed the face of dating a lot in that previously dating was to get to know someone because the only time you would see that person was when you physically went to go see them, and that's when you'd talk to them and learn about them and all this sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Whereas now when you can get on Facebook or get on your phone and message them instantly and learn all like hours and hours worth of information that you would previously have to go out on dates to learn about them.
Yep.
When you get all that information in between, the dating isn't really as much.
It also takes the romance out of it. Like getting to know someone, getting to know them for who they are, getting to fall in love with them.
Yeah.
So that before you would have to go on a few dates realistically and then have sex. Now people are meeting up for the purpose of having sex.
Yeah.
So that almost takes the whole point of dating away. Because the point of dating is you would go out with someone, decide if there was a connection, if you liked them, if you wanted to get to know them, and then things progressed from there. But with social media, with Tinder, with Grindr, with all these, hookup apps, that's the point, right?
Yep.
So the point is you hook up whether you really like them or not. Because it's about having a physical act and I might never see you again.
So it's making sex a lot more casual.
Yeah.
Making the act of having sex a lot more socially acceptable and a lot more casual rather than having an intimate connection with someone.
It's just fulfilling a hunger to the man or the woman. That's
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the idea
when sex and pornography and sexual stuff is portrayed everywhere in just everyday advertisement, even. We're definitely to a degree desensitized to it. To a level where it is just something I can as casually go and meet someone to go have sex with them as I could go meet someone to watch a movie.
But the question is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that now becoming a normal thing, a normal part of growing up?
Yeah, well, normal's really defined as what the majority does, but just because it's normal does not necessarily mean it's okay or healthy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, my fourth fact, porn is addictive at a brain level.
Oh, definitely.
Very addictive.
well, you're watching something that satisfies you, so
Well, I don't know if I'd say it was addictive.
It all depends on the personality type. If you have an addictive personality, then you can get addicted to it.
I mean, I suppose, but I feel like any usage that I have is, I feel like, very small compared to other people that I've talked to. And then, even then, if I wanted to, I could just cut cold turkey and not have to rely on it at all, I feel.
But for a lot of people, You start out at a certain level of porn and you get used to it, your brain gets used to it, so the kind of shock value and the kind of interest level it gave you before is not as great, and so you've got to get something a bit
Crazier.
weirder and a bit crazier and a bit weirder and a bit crazier. That's what an addiction does.
Yeah.
And there are people who want to watch the porn and the crazier porn because that's not real life, and they'd actually rather do that than even be with their long-term partner, particularly blokes.
I like to have both worlds, to be honest. When I was when I
Now
was
there's a surprise.
no when I had a long-term relationship, and you know, we're doing some things that were a bit out of the ordinary fairly often, and but then I'd still go back and watch porn that was just completely extreme, completely out of what a normal person would watch for sure.
See, I've talked to a couple of friends from uni, and as nurses, you talk about everything. There is no
Sure.
limit to what you talk about. And they said that they only really use porn when their partner is away. So they have a long-term partner that sometimes has to go out of the country for extended periods of time. And that's the only time that they ever watch it. Other than that, they get pleasure from their partner.
See, I'd get the pleasure from the girl, then I'd go back and have another go.
Well, yeah, I think that's
So
I think the only when your partner is away thing is more of a for the girl, because I think in today's society they really get to decide in relationships when
I was talking
when
to
it's
a
on.
girl.
Yeah.
it's
I don't think a guy can really say, "Oh, I'll just get with my partner when I'm in the mood."
we're not in the control of
because
that. Not at
the
all.
guy can be in the mood and it's never gonna happen. Whereas if the girl's in the mood, the guy's not gonna say.
That's why if you're not in a long-term relationship, you're both in control because you just message each other, then you go sort it out. See, if you're in a long-term relationship, it's all about feelings and stuff, and you got to be in the right mood, and like she's got to be happy, and you got to buy, cook a dinner or something stupid. As then I just message some random girl, and then we just meet up and we get stuff sorted. So
Yeah, but in saying that, getting stuff sorted, you say, it can be really dangerous, especially for a girl.
Yeah.
Like you
tell
go
us
out
about
and
it.
you meet
For her, yeah.
somebody.
It is. I'm just in my own world.
No, keep going, Rachel. Ignore Ben, please.
Yeah, sorry.
We all ignore you.
Yeah, it's a good train of thought.
Yeah, go.
When you find someone on Tinder, Grindr, whatever, and you do meet up, it can be potentially dangerous because you don't know who you're meeting up with on the
Right.
internet. And
Yeah.
not just that, say you are into rape fantasies and the girl really does mean no, or even the guy means no, and stuff continues to happen, it can cause damage.
Yeah. I actually saw a video recently on Facebook of an awareness video where a guy went and got parents' permission to do this social experiment on their kids, and then he posed as a 15-year-old boy on Facebook
Oh yeah.
and friended 3 different girls and just started talking to them, and then went to meet up with them and would do stuff like he rocked up to their house and said, oh, it was his older brother driving the car, and then the girl would go and hop in the car and the parents were in the back. And they'd pretend like they're kidnapping her, and then the parents would obviously take off the mask and be like, no, we're your parents. Do you realise how dangerous and scary a situation you could have been in? You hopped in this car with someone you've never met before in life, who you just spoke to on Facebook, who you've never known before he spoke to you on Facebook.
Yeah.
And the number of parents who, in this video, because they would ask the parents, do you think she's going to come out? Do you think she's going to get to the front door? Do you think she's going to let me in? Do you think she's going to come to the car? The parents were like, oh, no way. No way she wouldn't do that. That's so foolish. And they did, and the parents were so surprised, because I just think, like Rachel said, it's very dangerous, and I don't think many people are aware of how dangerous this stuff is because of how normal it is to be on these social networks and
Yep.
how normal
Yeah, to meet
pornography and
strangers,
stuff
yeah.
like that is.
And I think because young people aren't admitting that or talking about it to their parents in particular,
Yeah.
it's all hidden.
Yeah.
So the meeting's hidden, the conversations are hidden, the texting that's gone on's hidden, and so there's no one there to protect.
But it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
just
100%.
that, it's parents that from, say, your generation to my generation, they never had the
Absolutely.
as
Yeah.
much access to the
So they
internet.
don't know how to
So
deal
they
with
don't
it.
know
Yeah.
how to access it. They don't know how to protect their kids from it.
Yep.
Almost tweeting.
Yeah. Almost tweeting. Number 5, and this is more a myth than a fact, only middle-aged men use porn.
Complete lie.
Mm.
That's the silliest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Who uses it?
Everyone.
Everybody.
You'd be hard pressed to find someone this day and age that has not looked at it.
Okay,
Above
so-
the age of probably 10 or 11, yeah.
Okay, so what is the biggest consumer age group, do you think, of porn?
I would say
Ah.
teens.
Yeah, teens that are just starting out, like learning who they are and their sexuality
Okay.
and everything.
Yeah,
Ding! That's correct. 12 to 17-year-old males are the biggest consumers of porn
for sure.
on the planet.
Yeah, 'cause
And
Male
yet you're
starts going through
supposed to be
puberty,
18 to
Gets
enter
all
the
that
sites.
testosterone.
But there's no way
But
to
there's only-
prove that you
yeah,
are
there's
18.
only-
There's just a box that you tick that says, yes, I'm
Yes.
18.
Yep.
Well, not even that.
Yeah,
Sometimes
there are
think
many
some-
sites that don't check that.
Yeah.
you know, you just go straight to the thing. And
Okay,
go for
what
it.
about females in porn? You're alluding to the fact that girls you talk to, a lot of females use porn.
Yeah,
I think
A
it'd be
lot
an
of
older
females
age.
are.
all the girls I spoke to in high school did.
A lot of them are reluctant to say that they will, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of people that aren't used to talking about this subject.
Yeah.
Males will talk about the
Yeah,
hair
not
colour
porn.
and eye colour of the different female porn
Yeah.
stars that they've seen, but a lot of girls will just blatantly lie and say, no, I have not looked at it.
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay. 60% of females
Hmm?
have used porn by the time they're 18.
So
So
you
again,
had to believe that because 16, 15 is probably when they'd probably start looking at it, when they're boyfriends and
But-
start getting curious and whatnot.
Yeah,
they
but
wanna
it's
know what
not
they're talking
just
about.
that as well. It's for males. It is about sexuality and everything. But when you're a female and you're growing up, you want to look at other female bodies to make sure that yours is growing correctly.
right.
Like you want to be able
Oh.
to compare and.
That's
Is that why you
super
look at it?
interesting.
That's an
Yeah,
interesting
I've-
reason to go look at
Yeah,
that, Rachel.
that's-
I think that
Yeah.
what Rachel's getting at, though, is there's a big difference between why females and males use porn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
for
definitely
sure look at it.
never
They'd use
went
it for emotional
specifically to
reasons.
check that my bits were going correctly. I just kind of assumed I
But
was.
Well,
see,
because
you
in
don't
most,
look at other
most
men and go,
porn,
yeah,
the
that's
guys
what
in
I
most
should be
porn are
looking
just
at.
stupidly endowed. So like, you see all of them and you're like, look, they're all freaks, or I'm on the losing end of this thing.
I don't
and I
really
just
fu-
need to accept it.
I don't really
because they're
focus
all
on
at the
guys,
same
but-
level.
Say you're in a crowd and you're walking down, I don't know, a shopping centre or something. A girl will automatically look at a girl that they think is hotter, beautiful, whatever, more than them, and automatically compare. It doesn't even. You don't even have to think about it. Your brain automatically does it.
Wow.
No,
And
I
that is
don't have
most
that issue.
girls.
That probably has a lot to do with the way advertisement and
It
female
definitely
image is
does. So
nowadays
when
as
you're a
well.
younger girl and you were growing up and you're finally growing boobs and they don't actually just grow one day, you just wake up and they're there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You experienced that, did you?
Yeah, I did.
So you
First
think
I
on
just
that
woke up and it was
level-
like, whoa.
So you think on some level it's actually helpful for some young females to
Look,
go
when
and
you
see.
grow up, when you are developing, one boob grows bigger than the other.
Yep, okay.
Okay, it just automatically
That's same with
happens.
testicles.
I experienced that.
Yeah. But why aren't they just going to their mothers or their parents or fathers?
Because some
Because
Oh, wait, just mothers. Why aren't they just going to their mothers?
people physically can't talk to their parents. The removal from the generations is just too much.
Okay.
Okay.
Porn is not real life. We've talked about that
Yeah.
before, but I just want to
Well, I've done my
reiterate
best
that
to try.
point. That what happens in the stuff young people are seeing is so confusing if they then think this is the way relationships actually work.
Yeah.
That people always want sex and it always works perfectly, that it's because that's not real life.
No, completely not.
So the effect that it has on relationships down the road may not be very positive.
Yeah.
Well, it's showing a completely different story to what real life is. So our
Right.
view of it's different. So the way we go into the relationship or whatever is completely wrong. I guess our mindset's wrong.
Yep.
My mindset's wrong almost every time. So, but yeah, the girl always keeps telling me that. So.
Porn's being used at earlier and earlier ages. We've talked about that. And
Yeah.
one of the huge concerns there is if you're 11 or 12 and you're coming across a porn site, the effect that has on you developmentally is really dangerous because you're not physically ready, you're not emotionally ready, you don't have the kind of life experience or capacity to process what you're seeing, but kids are coming across this over and over again at an early age.
Migraine now. We met Winifred through a documentary called Sexy Baby, which explores a jaw-dropping statistic. 9 out of 10 children between the ages of 8 and 16 have viewed pornography on the internet. And a lot of them say it's how they're learning about sex. Winifred's friend Danielle was 11 the first time she stumbled on it.
There was this one black guy, one Hispanic guy, and this one very blonde woman. And they were just like ferociously banging each other. It was very, I mean, I came home, I was bawling my eyes out. I'll never forget it.
It definitely stays in your mind. For sure. Even if you stop watching it, it stays in your mind for months and months and months afterwards.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I tried to stop it once. When I was addicted, I tried to stop at one stage, and didn't matter. I had so many vivid and explicit images in my head. It was like watching a video in my head anyway. So,
Yeah.
and it took months and months and months for it to really start to wind down, I guess.
Yep.
It does wind down. It definitely. But there's always things you would never forget. Like there's things I've seen that I just never
You
forget.
can't get out of your mind.
No.
Yeah, it's almost like a trauma. When you
Well-
look at the eyes on that girl, I mean, she is really affected.
Yeah, she was shocked. Yeah.
She was really affected by what
Yeah.
she saw. And even in 2007 was the last stat that I could find that said 12 years of age
Yeah.
is the average age at which kids are encountering their first hardcore porn viewing.
Yeah, well, I was 11, so
Does it
You're
mention
like-
where they're finding these sites or how they're accessing it?
Well, no, because a lot of the time they're saying it was by accident, it popped up, it was a link, it was something like that, particularly for girls. A lot of the time now, other teens are introducing them to it.
Yep.
Boys are pressuring girls. They're saying, look at this, look at that. Sexting is a whole different topic that we've got to do an episode on because it's a
100%.
massive issue.
Yeah.
And the implications of sexting, both emotionally and legally, are massive. So we'll come back
Very
and talk
dangerous.
about that.
Yep.
But
I think a big thing with porn as well is when you're young and when you're a kid, especially when you're going through puberty and trying to discover yourself and understand yourself as just a human being.
Yeah.
Kids always have this rush to grow up.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to seem older and they're wanting to be taken more seriously. And it's a real struggle kids have. And I think a lot of them will see pornography as a way of doing that. You know, if they watch porn, they seem older. If
Yeah.
they can understand and accept this stuff and it's normal for them, they're like an adult. 'Cause it's a very adult issue, and it's a very adult thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
It's been around for a very, very long time. But even having said that, you got to be very mature to understand porn properly, and I think these kids are trying to use that as a way to grow up, and I don't think that's very healthy at all.
Yeah, for sure. My next point, which Ben really covered for us, is porn gets stuck in your mind.
Yeah.
And that was also the point in the video, that particularly the younger you are, the more likely it is that those images get stuck in your mind because you're not ready for them. And that's how trauma works. Trauma is things that get stuck in your mind that you didn't want to see, even if that's a car accident or if it's watching somebody who was seriously injured. You don't want to think about that, but you can't get that thought out of your mind. It pops back and it pops back and it pops back. And a lot of young people describe a similar kind of phenomenon when they're watching really inappropriate porn at a very early age. So that for me is a huge issue. We've talked about the fact porn changes behaviour, and it changes your behaviour at the time, but it changes your behaviour long term. And the next one, which we do need to come back to, but I want to get your quick opinions on. Porn can be illegal,
100%.
particularly for the population we're talking about. What do you think I'm getting at?
We have to be over 18 to watch it even. So, and yet all these kids are watching that are under 18. That's illegal. That's for one.
Yeah, how's this happening?
Yeah, sexting.
There's not enough restrictions on it.
Right.
But you can't really restrict it without giving a credit card, and kids these days have access to their parents' credit cards.
Right.
But then their parents will easily find out that they're doing it, and then hopefully the parents would act on it. So it makes sense.
Well,
You'd
even-
need a credit card before you can enter the site.
Even beyond that, a big legal issue is sexting. Is young people taking or having
Absolutely.
images and explicit wording of things of themselves and about other people and sending them to each other.
But
Yep.
do they know that? Like, it's very...
Well, they're probably not educated about it. But,
No, because the age for sexting and the age for having legal sex is very blurred.
Yeah. Well, it says, I just brought up a page just here, and it says from 2nd of November 2014, you may be charged with an offence if you threaten to send an intimate image of a person to others.
And that does not have an age
So
limit on it.
it's you could, without even sending anything, if you say whether or not you have an image as a joke, oh, I got this image of you and I'm going to send it to this person to pick on them or to bully or tease at school, which we know happens, that you can be charged for. And at the bottom here it says the maximum penalty for possessing child pornography, so even a young kid possessing an image that they may have gotten from a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a friend or something like that, maximum penalty for possessing it is 5 years in jail, and for producing it, so taking the image, is 10 years.
Well, and producing it is actually classed as taking a photo on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you are 15 and you take a photo on your phone and you send it to somebody else who is 15, you are technically trafficking in child porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an issue we've got to come back to and help young people understand.
Yeah.
But it just staggers me, kind of back to what you were saying, Rachel. If that's the case, how is it that these young people can access these sites that are meant to be for 18-year-olds? Why do we have these stats? 12 to 17-year-old males are the biggest consumers of porn on the planet. And what can we do about it?
Well, parental controls aren't good enough. That's one.
Do you think parents even know?
Well, no, I think that's the issue. And
I think
the
parents
sites don't
know
try-
it's an issue. They're just very unassuming of their own child's behaviours.
and they don't know how to treat it either. But I don't think the sites care enough to act upon it, because there's definitely ways you can stop it.
I'm sure the sites are purposely not acting upon it because
Well, yeah, that's half
in
it.
in a legal situation it would be, well, the child entered our site.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
It's
don't-
not our fault.
We didn't.
Well,
know
the young
that they
person
were
is
a
simply a
child.
dollar sign.
Yeah,
$15
they're more than
billion.
happy to let them through.
They don't care.
But I don't think the kids would be making that much money, though, to be honest. But it's more just the number, like the views, the likes, which then attract the people that are paying for it. They go, well, there's so many likes on this video, it must be a good video. Then they pay for that video.
Yeah.
I don't think even we need to take such a hard stance on it, because I think a big part of the issue and a big part of the reason that pornography can be damaging for young children is the lack of understanding and the lack of education and them getting their education through this. So I think probably the biggest thing parents need to do, rather than just putting on a parental lock and saying, no, this is bad, this is wrong, and cutting it cold turkey, because every kid is going to get sexually adventurous as they go through puberty. Every kid is going to want to understand their body and the body of the opposite sex more. It's something that naturally we're going to do. And for that to be then cut off and say, no, you wanting to explore that and trying to explore it is wrong, is going to be damaging in and of itself.
Definitely.
So I think if a parent catches a child watching pornography, it doesn't need to be something that's turned into a big issue. It needs to be something that they sit down and talk to them about it, and they say, look, you having these urges and wanting to understand this stuff is natural. This stuff you're seeing isn't healthy stuff. And if you want to understand it more, we can talk about it and I can help you understand it, but this is not the medium to do it through.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yep.
I agree as well, but it's not just educating the children, you have to educate the parents.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of parents will not have that conversation. I know parents that refuse to put their kids through sex ed in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
It's just, in this day and age, especially with the availability of sex, they need to understand. They need to be able to talk to their children about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll be back in a minute. We're going to wrap up with the panel, and I'm going to give you some tips.
Our ability to make further podcasts relies on your support.
Yep.
So please subscribe on YouTube, like, comment, and share on Facebook. Go onto our Twitter at Almost Tweeting and send us comments with the hashtag Almost Therapeutic. Your support and passing this information around to other people can help share these issues and problems with other young people so that we can all understand it a bit more.
All right, so takeaway tips tonight. Look, firstly, let me say
It's a
thank you
joke.
to the panel.
Yeah.
This is not an easy topic to just sit down and talk about. You've all been really open and vulnerable, maybe more than you planned to be, and we appreciate that. And for those of you listening and viewing, don't judge. Be thankful for the fact that there's a panel of young adults who are talking openly about a topic that is really important, that affects so many young people. And well, I appreciate your openness tonight, so thank you for that.
Really
Thank
uncomfortable.
you.
I sat here with my arms
I
crossed
had,
most
I had
of the
good
time.
fun.
Like
I just hope
subconsciously.
Mum doesn't watch it.
And
that's all.
I'm really
Yeah,
hoping
no,
my
you-
parents aren't going to see this.
No immediate relatives of the panel are allowed to watch this particular podcast.
You're my
So-
immediate relative. So
If you
we
look
got
at us
that
and you
covered
see
already.
someone
So
you
my
know, turn it
tips,
off.
my tips though for you parents, just to take away tonight, talk openly with your young people about what is out there, and don't bury your head in the sand. You need to be aware of the fact that this is a massive issue, a huge industry, one of the biggest industries on the planet,
Yep.
and that 12 to 17-year-olds are the most affected, both male and female. So be aware and please talk to your young people. Help them understand that porn sex is not real life, that what they're watching is an industry, and it's a very, very clever industry that is designed to try and make them watch and share information that distorts their view of sex and of relationships. Provide lots of healthy opportunities for kids to meet and to date and to build, healthy relationships that lead to intimacy, and be supportive of that and be involved in that. And if you need to, put cybersecurities in place. There's a lot of options out there that you can utilize to make sure that the online things in your home have got limitations on them, particularly for 12 to 17-year-olds. But the truth is, I don't think they work. I think young people will find it anyway.
Yeah.
The
As long as-
data's
Or you
telling
use
us.
the same code that you use for everything, so your kid knows it anyway.
Well, probably,
Yeah.
but
You
they'll
have,
find it
like,
at a friend's
2
house.
passwords.
They'll find it. Yeah, I know, my passwords. Yeah, they'll find it somewhere. So I think the most important thing is to be able to sit down and have authentic conversations about this with your young people. Don't be embarrassed. Let them know what you're thinking. And if they know that you've got that openness, it might be a discussion that they're willing to have
Or even wanting to have.
or even wanting to have.
There are people out
Proactive,
there
I
that
think.
have freaky relationships, like really close relationships with their parents, and they do talk openly about everything.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not one of them. I'm sure they're out there.
They're in the minority, which is why we're doing a podcast about things most young people don't want to talk to their parents about.
Yeah, I think parents just need to be a little bit more proactive instead of reactive, I guess, towards the topic.
Yeah.
But you don't
So-
have to openly discuss sex with your 8-year-old. You just have to have an age-appropriate answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely.
definitely. That's
None of this, the stork carried the baby in, but
Wait, that's
Well,
not true.
a different topic altogether.
Thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. If anything that we've talked about is affecting you in a personal way, make sure you seek support and make sure you do find someone that you can talk to in an open and an appropriate way.
And as always, you can comment and send feedback on our social media sites displayed below. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, if you're making a comment about the show, to hashtag almost therapeutic.
Sounds good. That's it for tonight.